You're watching Idaho's News Channel 7. This is the news at 10.
We're back with breaking news about a murder mystery involving those 4 Idaho college students.
A year ago tomorrow, life changed on the University of Idaho campus. What once was a safe college community spiraled into chaos. It was a shocking crime. 4 students were brutally murdered in a home off campus, and Moscow was at the center of a media firestorm. Thanks for joining us here on this Sunday News at 10. I'm Brenda Rodriguez. Tomorrow is the year that marks of one of what happened on King Road, and we want to know how the University of Idaho is working on the continued healing of Vandal students and staff. Maggie O'Mara went to Moscow to find out. Take a look.
We're back with breaking news about a murder mystery involving those 4 Idaho college students.
We know you have questions, and so do we.
The university's dean of students responding to those ongoing fears.
It's scary what's happened.
Take me back and tell me what you went through in those first days.
Those first days are really a blur. We were responding, we were all devastated, we were all in shock.
Blaine Eccles is the Dean of Students at the University of Idaho. He still can't believe what happened a year ago. 4 students brutally murdered in a home just off campus. Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogan. 4 beautiful lives cut short. The media descended on the small college town.
This is the last thing you thought you'd have to deal with here at the U of I.
Yeah, no one ever anticipates going through an experience like this at all.
While police were investigating, Eccles says the U of I went into crisis mode.
We had a job to do, which was responding for the needs of our students. We led with a student-first approach of safety and security and support. That made it very simple in my world. From how our faculty responded and supported students who needed to go home at probably the darkest time in their life, for the support and outreach that I've seen students show in care and support of one another, to the beautiful outpouring of care and support for the families of these individuals that we've lost.
After weeks of uncertainty and fear,
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger.
Brian Kohlberger was arrested.
He was booked into the Latah County Jail.
And there was a huge sigh of relief on campus. A year later, life goes on. And the focus is now on healing.
This was a site that a lot of students really like because it's kind of quiet here and it's peaceful.
A major part of that healing is this open space on campus.
I knew that we'd have to create some sort of memorial to remember these 4 bright souls that we lost. And so we started and created a Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial. It's a quiet, secluded place nestled up against the trees. And we have our students in the College of Art and Architecture that are leading the way with what a design can look like for that. I'm really excited to see what the students are going to do with it.
The Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial is still in the early phases, but donations are coming in.
To date, we've raised over $200,000, $219,000 that will go towards the Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial. So we're always looking for great donations and opportunities for folks to help us create a space where our Vandal family can come together and heal and grieve in support of one another.
Thousands of those dollars raised by students. Remember these Vandal Strong bracelets with the name of the 4 victims? They were sold to support this memorial.
Yeah, the bracelets, again, a student-led initiative, which they did phenomenal. They raised over, I think, $25,000. I'm actually wearing one of the bracelets right here.
But Eccles acknowledges there is one thing that remains near campus, something that makes it hard to heal, and you can see it from almost every direction. The now boarded-up King Road house, the scene of the crime.
It is an impact on our students. You know, it's a constant daily reminder for them, and that's a hardship as well.
Some of the families want it left alone until the trial is over. But at the beginning of this month, investigators once again visited the house. Since there's no date set for the Kohlberger trial, they wanted more time to examine the house and to build a model of it.
We're evaluating as the situation goes and seeing what happens on the court side too. At the moment, there aren't any plans underway to do anything with the house. President Green is just being very sensitive to the needs and the concerns of the family, but we also have a responsibility to our community too.
On the year anniversary, there will be a special student-led vigil at the U of I to remember these beloved vandals taken from this community.
Only students are going to be speaking at this vigil. It'll be at 6 o'clock on Monday, the 13th of November, and it's going to be open for anyone to join and participate.
A vigil to keep healing and keep moving forward one day at a time. A year later, Eccles says being a vandal means even more to him now.
The one thing I think it's really done is solidify what it means to be a member of the Vandal family. We are there for one another. We care for one another. We support one another.
Vandal strong.
That vigil will be held tomorrow night at the University of Idaho. It will be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the administration lawn at the Moscow campus. The university is also asking vandals around the country to turn on their porch lights in solidarity from 7 to 8 p.m. And coming up tomorrow night at 10, Maggie sits down with the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez at their home in Rathdrum, Idaho, to find out how they're doing a year later.
When this is all said and done, you remember these 4 kids, that's the end goal that we're all working towards. And we're gonna forget whatever loser did this, whatever monster put this together. He's gonna become not the story, and the story will be...
He'll be non-existent.
Yeah, he won't even be around to be remembered, and everyone else will be.
I do.
And that story is coming up tomorrow night right here on KTVB. And the year since the murders have been full of legal twists and turns as prosecutors work to build their case against the man accused of the killings. Here's a look at how we got where things stand today. November 13, 2022, a day that changed how people around the world talked about Moscow, Idaho. On this day, local law enforcement found 4 people dead in a home off King Road. Along with the victims, investigators also discovered a few key pieces of evidence. A K-bar knife sheath investigators believe belonged to the murder weapon. On that sheath, police say they found DNA that didn't match anyone living at the house. The next day, people would know the victims as University of Idaho students Zainer Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez. Police launched a homicide investigation, and then days later, autopsies revealed the 4 victims were murdered. Within 10 days of the crimes, Moscow police held 3 press conferences to address the public, all without having a suspect in custody.
We know you have questions, and so do we.
In a week and a half, investigators say they had collected more than 100 pieces of evidence, taken 4,000 photographs, reviewed 1,000 tips, and conducted 150 interviews. One of the biggest leads to a potential suspect would point to a white Hyundai Elantra. Court documents would later reveal the make and model of that car was seen speeding past the King Road home right after the murders. Local law enforcement would begin looking into this November 25th. On December 7th, the Moscow Police Department brought this tip to the public. But by this point, court documents say a Washington State University police officer had already found a white Elantra registered to Brian Kohberger living in Pullman, Washington. 2 weeks before the end of the year, Kohberger and his father drove that car across the country from Washington to Pennsylvania. There, police collected trash from his Pennsylvania family home, and an Idaho state lab matched DNA to the knife sheath found November 13th. 47 days after the students' bodies were discovered, an arrest was made. December 30th, Pennsylvania State Police take Kohberger into custody. He's then extradited to Idaho, where he would wait for his first Latah County court appearance on January 5th. On this day, major details in the investigation were released in the affidavit of facts. Over the first quarter of the year, search warrants would show what investigators took from Kohberger's Pullman apartment and university office. Kohberger made several court appearances leading up to a grand jury indictment May 17th. Less than a week later, at the suspect's arraignment, a trial date was set for October 2nd. The date would eventually be thrown out, with both the state and defense advocating for more time to prepare for this trial. That brings us to today, 1 year later, where we're all waiting between a suspect waiting to know his fate while in Latah County custody and the world waiting to see who is responsible for the deaths of 4 young people, and will they be brought to justice. Still to come, with a surge in deaths by suicide in our local schools, hear from mental health experts about different ways to help those in crisis. Our community is hurting right now. There's been a recent number of deaths by suicide in our local schools. Those students had families, they had friends, and will be missed. This is a public health issue, and we wanted to have a conversation about ways to help those in crisis. News Channel 7's Jude Binkley spoke with several mental health experts about the resources out there for prevention. Jude?
Brenda, one thing we've heard in our conversations over and over again is that one of the best ways to prevent suicide is by talking about it.
I think it's important just to acknowledge our community's hurting right now. And everybody's kind of looking at each other of how are we going to support these students, and I think it's a really good time that we come together and really support each other too.
We sat down to talk about suicide prevention with the Boise School District and community partners from BPA Health and the Children's Home Society. Those experts say one of the best ways to prevent suicide is to talk about it.
Bring it out of the dark into the light. That takes the power away.
I think it's really important that the conversations do happen and that it's not necessarily a one-time event, but it's a continual event between multiple people. The schools should be talking about it. Families should be and hopefully are talking about it. Community partners, it's really a team effort.
At school, that can mean approaching a teacher or counselor.
That can be a first line of a resource, finding that trusted adult within a building and being able to talk to them, and then helping navigate, one, maybe a discussion with their family of, hey, the student's struggling, and then two, maybe does the student need more resources?
And at home, parents should also be checking in with their kids' mental health.
Sometimes we just don't know what to say, and that's okay to even acknowledge, like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. I'm going to be here with you for as long as I need to be.
While these can be difficult conversations to have,
The more direct you can be, the better.
there are resources that can help.
We shouldn't be afraid to call 988.
988 is the number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You don't have to be in a crisis to call. They also provide resources, support, and can just be there to talk.
Have your cell phone, call 988, put it on speaker. They can help through the process. You're not in this alone. So just know that there's support to help around those conversations.
988 is free. It is anonymous. It is 24/7. You can call, you can text, you can chat.
Shannon Decker is the executive director of the Speedy Foundation, which champions effective suicide prevention and mental health awareness. They also offer free online trainings on suicide prevention. She says a student's peers can also give insight into how they're feeling.
So for educators and for parents, knowing these signs, but also being able to have direct conversations and relationships with their kids' friends, because it's our peers who really have a pulse on what's going on.
That can give you a great insight to maybe what they're feeling, that if they are looking okay, they may not be. Sometimes you got to look for those subtle cues.
There are several warning signs that a teenager could be entering a mental health crisis.
Looking at youth, some of those risk factors are disturbances in sleep. When we have young people who are not getting the sleep that they need, especially if they're struggling with another type of crisis, issues surrounding sexual identity and gender are huge. Eating disorders, setbacks and perfectionism is something that we're really seeing in our youth. Social media really contributes to this, but it's more than just like the technology piece. It's connection.
Connection. It can be a cure.
When there's connection, there's more ability to walk away from addiction. There's more ability to survive. There's more ability to find purpose. Sometimes human experience is rough, and this is why we need each other. This is where humanity comes in and we see the best of it.
And there are many other resources, classes, contacts, and events in our community centered around suicide prevention and mental health awareness. We'll have a lot of those listed in our web story at KTVB.com for anyone who'd like them. And Brenda, again, these experts say that death by suicide is preventable, and one of the best ways to prevent it is to talk about it.
Yeah, it's really important, and really knowing that you're not alone. You have a community right there backing you up. And
absolutely.
Of course, just like Jude mentioned, we'll have that on our website at KTVB.com. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. A big shakeup for Bronco Nation tonight, less than 24 hours after a decisive 42-14 win over New Mexico last night. Boise State football head coach Andy Avalos has been fired, and sports director Jay Tuss is here to walk us through what happened. Jay?
Yeah, given the way the season has gone, Brenda, and what sources close to the program have recently told me about the culture, the news isn't quite shocking, but I would say the timing of it is a bit surprising. Let's give you a recap of what's happened over the last 17 hours. At about 11:30 last night, Boise State polished off a 42-14 win over New Mexico. At 10:19 a.m., ESPN's Pete Thamel reported that Avalos was going to be dismissed today. At 10:45, sources told me that a team meeting had been scheduled at the last minute for 11 a.m. The players weren't supposed to report back to the facility until later in the evening. Then at 11 a.m., I was able to confirm that Avalos had been dismissed as head football coach. Now, this is video from around 11:30 this morning from just outside the Gene Blameyer football complex. Sophomore quarterback Taylon Green was a bit of a late arrival. The notice was so short that some of the players couldn't even make it to the facility on time for the start of the meeting. I'm told that Spencer Danielson addressed the team during the meeting. He will serve as the interim head coach for the rest of the season. Approximately 90 minutes after that scheduled meeting started, you could see some of the team captains, DJ Schramm and Riley Smith leaving the building along with Green and Alexander Tubner. Now, we were able to obtain this letter from Boise State Director of Athletics, Jeremiah Dickey. He sent this out to season ticket holders today. It stated, although these decisions are never easy and directly impact the greatest strength, our people, it is my responsibility to assess the direction of our program. I must make decisions that give Boise State the best opportunity to align results with our high expectations. The necessity to ensure we are positioned for success is magnified as we seek to take advantage of the expanded college football playoff in 2024. Now, this is what Bronco Nation had to say earlier today.
When you're head coach, it all falls on your shoulders. But I think Andy has done a good job, and I hope nothing but the best for him in the future.
Kind of the mentality that the team kind of has, they don't really, seems like the chip's a little gone. The chip on the shoulder's gone.
It's an unusual thing here. This has been a very successful program for decades.
We got a top-notch AD who's come in and has said, you know, I know when to cut bait. I know when it's time to move on and find something new.
You know, my role is to support him no matter what, no matter who the head coach is, no matter what's going on. I mean, that's what fans do.
Now, Avalos still has a little over 2 years left on his 5-year contract that he signed in January 2021. Boise State is obligated to pay Avalos 85% of the remaining value on that deal, which could be as much as approximately $3.3 million. Per his contract, Avalos is supposed to reasonably seek out other employment during the length of this contract. Whatever compensation he would receive from another employer, Boise State would then deduct that from what they're paying Avalos. He won't receive a lump sum. He will be paid every 2 weeks until his contract expires, Brenda, in 2026.
Yeah, so what is BSU looking for finding that perfect candidate?
They've already launched a national search for the next head coaching candidate. I would expect Boise State to be very aggressive with the timeline here. The transfer portal is open for Boise State players. They don't have to wait until December 4th with the firing of Andy Avalos. So I think that they're going to have to move swiftly, and I think that financially they're going to invest in a head coach as much as they ever have, maybe a $2 million price range, something along those lines, and maybe a coach that does have previous head coaching experience, something Andy Avalos didn't have when he was hired at Boise State. But big news, we have more at KTVB.com and more coming up tonight, Brenda, on Sunday Sports Extra.
Yeah, a lot here to take in. Well, thank you so much, Jay. Well, stick around. Meteorologist Rachel Garceau is up next with your first alert forecast.
From News Channel 7, time for 7 First Alert weather.
Well, our Sunday was unusually warm across our entire viewing area. Sun Valley, no exception. 54 degrees, the high for the Sun Valley Haley area. Mostly overcast, just like it was here in the lower elevations, but still very pleasant. Did you catch that gorgeous sunrise? I just flashed by it here really quickly, but it was brilliant out there. Sunset, I should say. It was brilliant out there earlier this evening. In Boise, we hit 66 degrees, 4 degrees shy of the record high for for today. Twin Falls was even warmer than that at 67. You can see, though, temperatures a little bit cooler as you head west of Boise. That's our indication that that inversion is still in place and likely will strengthen in the coming days. So as we look at where we normally land for a November 12th afternoon, typically we're closer to about 50 degrees for that high temperature in Boise, and our morning lows are closer to the freezing mark. Today, we dropped down to 41 early this morning, hit that 66-degree high, 4 degrees shy of our record for this date of 70 degrees. Right now, we are at 50, that normal daytime high. And all of these temperatures were really boosted by that southerly, southeasterly flow that came in. Very breezy winds, a bit of a nuisance if you were out and about, but it was a warm wind, and we still have some wind in play right now, southeast wind at 11 miles per hour. So overnight, we'll still stay mostly overcast, which does keep a lid on that overnight heat loss. So we'll just drop down to 44 degrees in Boise tomorrow morning. Our sunset was at 5:23 this evening. Sunrise tomorrow just after 7:30. Another mild day, another mostly cloudy day tomorrow, but we'll still hit 64 degrees to kick off the work week. So you'll want the extra layer in the morning, but hey, if you run warm, you may not need it in the afternoon. Highs will hit the 60s for most of the Treasure Valley, a little cooler in the Magic Valley. Highs more like mid to upper 50s. You can see again Ontario only at 56, while Boise will likely hit about 64 degrees. And that again is an indication of that inversion, which will strengthen in the coming days. And if you're new to the area, that inversion simply means we see temperatures that get warmer as we head up in the atmosphere. Is very little mixing at the surface. Brenda, you're familiar with the inversion. Things start looking a little murky because we can't clear out those pollutants. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but still expect it to strengthen in the coming days.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's warm. Well, thank you so much. We'll be right back. Well, some good news for you. Snow is coming early to Bogus Basin next Saturday, November 18th. The Explorer Terrain Park is opening for the season. It goes from 10 that morning until 4 that afternoon. And the best part, it is free. But back over here, though, we're going to continue with the warmth, right?
Yes, we are. Take a look at temperatures for us tomorrow. I think, Brenda, you will like this. Boise will hit 64 degrees tomorrow. Not quite as warm as our 66 today. Ontario, places west of Boise, the lower Treasure Valley, a little cooler due to that inversion. Upper 50s there. Low 50s up in the mountains, but still a pretty pleasant kickoff to the work week.
Well, thank you so much for watching.